Thank you so much for joining another Quintessential Roots podcast. I'm your host, Renee Barron. Now, if you are enjoying the content that I'm putting out each week, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, and even hit that notification bell. You're in for a real treat tonight. We'll be exploring some information about frequency healing and sharing a couple samples. And if we have time, we'll share those with you, and you can kick off your shoes and kick up your heels and relax. But please feel free to leave comments or ask questions because we love audience participation. And if you're catching this on the replay, please leave a comment to let us know what you think about the show, what more things you would like to see, and any questions you may have. And we'll get back to you and we'll discuss it. So without further ado, we have Leigh Spusta on our show today. He's the creator of Cymatics Entrancing SoundScapes. He's a composer, hypnotherapist, certified therapeutic imagery facilitator. He specializes in the use of sound frequencies to produce deep trance states. He has become internationally recognized and enjoyed by thousands around the world. He's been working with iAwake Technologies as a primary content producer for over a decade. Now, Leigh has worked with several therapists in Los Angeles, producing a variety of therapeutic audio CDs, and has been hired as a consultant and producer, working with companies in the United Kingdom. He also works with the Hypnosis Motivation Institute of College of Hypnotherapy, and he also works with the American Hypnosis Association as director and media production. He's the director of media production. So Leigh combines his talents as a musician and his knowledge of hypnosis and related states in an effort to pioneer new approaches in creating a rich, resonant soundscape for greater efficacy in healing and meditative products. So Leigh is a developer of proprietary cymatics, therapeutic approaches, and technology. So we're going to bring him in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There I am.
Hi, Leigh.
Hi,
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So please tell us about yourself, how you got into this hypnotherapy and even this new proprietary blend of soundscapes that you do.
Okay, I'll try and condense it down to the bite-sized nugget. So, growing up as a kid, I started to become interested in music in general very young. 5, 6 years old, I was listening to the radio, and I don't know that I necessarily paid attention to it more than other kids, but I just gravitated towards music. And over time, I became interested in, I'd like to, learn how to play something. So I learned how to play guitar starting around 12 years old. And after a while, you start becoming more familiar with other types of music other than, the local stuff, rock and roll or whatever. And so the music of India started to become a fascination for me. And other types of music and soundscapes that can help people to move into these altered places, including other things that are still more in the popular area, like Pink Floyd. Oh man, I would just put my headphones on and just go someplace else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just became more and more aware that music has a power to it beyond just enjoying it just because we like a melody or something. It's really turns out it's very fundamental to our species in terms of Historically, it's been used for so many different things, and we can get into more of what that is. But so eventually, I also became interested in, therefore, altered states, and like, oh, what's this thing called meditation? What's hypnosis? And all the counterculture stuff from the '60s. Of course, I was eating that up because that's the tradition of rock music, and I was loving that. And so, what was Timothy Leary doing, and Ram Dass, and all these guys, and so it just all started fitting together. And at one point, I started learning about binaural beats. The Monroe Institute. They're the people that kind of, on a commercial level, started putting things out there to help people to, in that case, more than anything else, to have out-of-body experiences, which was also an interesting thing. So that kind of led me on a path a little bit. And then one day I don't know, in my early 20s, I kind of put it out to the universe that, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, but I was at a crossroads, and I'm like, I just put it out there. What should I do next? A couple days later, I'm thumbing through the yellow pages, that antiquated book that some of us remember and many don't. And there was an ad in the back with Florence Henderson's picture. I'm like, oh, I remember it. And it was from the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, which happened to be a couple miles away from me. Right. So I give them a call. I'm like, that sounds really interesting. I'd already been kind of interested in things like that and the imagery and things. Anyway, so I call up, I make an appointment. Once I'm there, I'm like, you don't even have to sell it to me. I want to do this, So I did the program, and anyway, I just became involved. I started working at the school. Eventually became the director of the media. So every time we were filming a class, I was there, part of that, and producing the videos and everything else. And so that also includes the AHA, the American Hypnosis Association, that I'm just happened to be here because it was better than a black wall behind me. Nothing.
I know. It's so it makes my little setup kind of, but nevertheless, it's my alma mater. Yay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, so 25 years ago is honestly when I showed up here.
Oh.
And since then, I've been blending my understanding, whatever I'm learning about hypnosis and other related things, imagery, in with how to produce music and these soundscapes that can help people to move into, in general, altered states, yes, but more particularly to, get deep relaxation, to open themselves up to a more imagery-oriented state so that it can flow more and they can get more deeply into it. Self-hypnosis, insight and discovery kind of states. We can go on and kind of get in finer and finer detail, but you get it. It's just, there's a lot of use for it, working with clients or just on your own.
Yeah.
And so I've just been doing that for, a quarter of a century. It just seems kind of weird, but that's what I've been doing. And
wow.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah. And I have to say, I own the license to his whole library, and I use it for my clients and I use them for myself. And every time I'm like, out. I take myself out. I use his music, and then I do recorded hypnosis sessions for myself, and using his, and I go so deep. So they're very, very, very good.
Thank you.
So Leigh, tell me about your a little bit of the sitars. Am I saying it right? That you're holding in the image on the cover.
Yeah, sitar is a traditional instrument that originated in India, and they have a whole tradition around how you're supposed to play it. It's very particular, the types of disciplines and spiritual kind of ideas that are associated with it. It was kind of intended as more of a spiritual instrument to help people to get into kind of a more sacred space or a more devotional space, or overall more spiritual tone of atmosphere. And I haven't studied those traditions. You really have to get knee deep in it before you even begin to do it the way they historically have done it. but I picked it up because I love the tone, and it kind of fits in with what I do. And so I play it more like a guitar player would approach it, you know.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I've used it in a few recordings, but it's been more interesting for me to use it in live situations. Yeah.
You know, it's like in India, the Hindu cultures, they've been using hypnosis for thousands of years. And so they've got it down to a science. So it's really, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Actually, yoga itself as a overall, you know, there's so many subtypes of yoga, but certainly these things fit in there. The yoga of sound, I don't know what they call it, but it is a thing that exists. It includes these types of instruments, chant, you know, Om Mani Padme Hum. You know, it's a thing that they found, back then, and still holds true today, that it has a real impact when people practice these things.
All right. Now, Leigh, I want to ask you a question. I don't know how far into it you are with the frequency, but can you tell us about Tesla's 369 and how it pertains to frequency and Tesla's coil?
Sure. As it relates to Tesla's coil, that's where the math gets a little slippy for me. Because
me too.
But nonetheless, the 369, he found that those whole numbers, and you can tell that, you know, 3 plus 3 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9. I mean, there's this interrelation. We can see how that already starts out. But as he continued to take the integers in higher and higher numbers, he realized that if you graph it out, it starts to graphic representations of these numbers create very shapes that are in line with the golden ratio. Golden ratio,
like frequency shapes.
Yeah, well, not the frequency shape itself, but no, more along the lines of
waves,
like the golden ratio. When you see like life itself, a flower, or an artichoke. I mean, take your pick. There's so many different things. The human being, you know, Da Vinci's Man, where he's like, you know, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is also a representation of the golden ratio. So showing that life itself has patterned itself off of this certain numeric sequence, so that it has the ability to grow into itself. I suppose it's just this idea of specific curved mathematics that produce these specific curves. Then you get into fractals, and then it really gets mind-boggling for me. And at a certain point, I do understand, you know, the basis of it. So the 369 is much in line with this golden ratio idea that life itself comes from those sequence of numbers that kind of can create a spiral, or and so there's the vortex in the Tesla example, that when he graphically represented, you know, you keep drawing lines between these integers that are based on the 369. You keep going and going and going until you have something that looks like a funnel. Similar to this curved space spiral mathematics. Anyway, so he based a lot of stuff on that. And he was kind of OCD, so he would do things like walk around the block 3 times before he would enter a building. I mean, he did everything 3. I mean, he was really into it.
Okay. But we probably needed him to be that way to come up with his genius.
Absolutely. I mean, he was born into how he was, and that affected how he did things. And we certainly have benefited, even though honestly he didn't benefit from, you know, he died poor, you know.
And we're benefiting from his research. Okay.
Yeah, kind of a lot of his research was stolen by both the Russian and the American government and put to use without really giving the guy enough credit for what he was doing. But anyway, that's that story.
Yeah.
So this 369 actually is related to the 432, which is the basis of the solfeggio tuning. So there's a connection there. and that's a little easier for me to talk about it because it's really sound and music.
That was my next question. Tell us the difference between solfeggio, or how are they connected? Solfeggio, binaural beats, and your entrainment music.
Okay, sure. So we'll start with the 432 and the solfeggio. So there are certain frequencies that both traditionally and in a kind of a rediscovery in modern last 30 years or so, there are certain frequencies that relate to different brainwave states, such as the alpha state, beta, delta, gamma, epsilon, whatever. So, and some people correlate those states also with the chakras. And the idea is that when you become in resonance with these specific states in a kind of a mind-body way, then the energy flows in such a way that you can clear blocks or become more attuned to specific experience, move beyond fear, or become more spiritually focused. There's in general, that's how that works. But what they found was that if you tune whatever music you're creating, if you use 432 as your kind of tuning fork, versus 440 is what has been the symphonic standard for, I don't know what it is, 150 years or so. And that symphonic standard was come about kind of, it wasn't the traditional tuning. It was kind of pushed into that position. And so that, it standardized it so that one orchestra can be in tune with itself, but also go to another city and meet up with other people. And we all know how to tune up and play together. But there are some people that suspect that there was potential, I don't want to use the word nefarious, but certainly background reasons for choosing that tuning that were not necessarily in line with love and harmony. It was more like, we're going to use this because it resonates with the human being in a different way.
Yeah,
that's kind of a rabbit hole or a Pandora's box that we should probably leave alone for now. People can research. However, people found that moving that tuning to 432 instead puts things back into a very harmonic place where the frequencies that align with note values like C, the key of G, so on, that it's whole numbers, and that this whole number sequence resonates all the way down to the Schumann resonance, which is the planetary frequency that is roughly 8 cycles per second, which is the note C. And a lot of people feel like on a piano, if somebody said, point to the note that feels like home on the piano, most people are going to press middle C. It's just an automatic resonance that we have. We're from this planet, and we are of this cycle of upon cycles of resonance. And so the 432 puts us in that line of it's breaks it down to these whole numbers based on C and the Schumann resonance, just like Tesla's 369 does. The solfeggios are based out of that. And so I, at this point, do all of my recordings at 432 unless there's a reason to do it in a different way. A lot of people feel that they can tell the difference and that it resonates with them in a much more harmonious way. Some people can't tell, but they're like, okay. I figure it's hard to scientifically prove an anecdotal experience to be a scientific fact. Mm-hmm. However, there's plenty of people that would attest to the fact that they feel like it works better for them to get into these states. So there's science going on. It's a hard thing to prove that the whole theory adds up.
Okay.
There's a lot to support it, and it doesn't hurt anything for us to choose 432 as our tuning basis, and it aligns us with solfeggios and so on.
Yeah, I know you have to truly watch what you're listening to, because you can start getting angry, you can get stressed. And then what I've noticed since I've been using Faggio and binaural beats, I wake up to the tune of a 40 hertz so that I can wake up and start my day. I don't use coffee, I use frequency. If I need a pickup during the day, like around lunchtime, I'll use frequency. And then before bed, I use frequency. So it really helps. You can use it to go to sleep. If you're an insomniac, you could. I use it just to de-stress or anything. If I'm in a creative mode where I need to do writing, I use them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel you on that for sure. But on that scientific note, I do have a treat for you. So I have, there's been a host of scientists and doctors working together. They're working on a project, and it's called music medicine, right? And so they're using entrainment in music, brain waves, in effect, they're using it. They're actually prescribing it to their patients. They've been doing studies, and they're getting these studies. They've been doing these studies over a long time. So, his name, one of the leading scientists and doctors, is Lee Bartell. He did a TED Talk. You can find him on YouTube. So he took 40 hertz, and that's the low E on the piano. He found that it reduces pain and it impacts the cells in the body. So what they did is they started stimulating cells with sound, because it can reduce the risk and impact of some common health problems. And that all of his studies have found that. And so he said brain waves are important to health. So they did a study. They started with Alzheimer's patients. So they took 18 patients, and they're double blind or whatever studies that they do. And they were all mild to severe Alzheimer's patients. Mm-hmm. So they did the sound stimulation, and they gave them a prescription to use these frequencies 30 minutes at 40 hertz, right? And the stimulation was supposed to be twice a week for 3 weeks. And so they gave them a DVD or a sound stimulation device. So over the 3 weeks, they found a 13% increase on the test that they give for Alzheimer's patients, right? And so that made them want to study it even more. So they did even more studies, and then they found that in this group that this study, they found that they had a slight memory that came back. So they weren't just totally void or just gone, but they could remember. When they came back, they said, "Oh, I remember being here." And then they had greater engagement with the world around them. So then when they started the other study, they started with this woman with severe Alzheimer's, right? So her prescription was this chair. It's called the Sound Oasis Vibroacoustic Therapy System, or the VIS 1000. So she was supposed to use it every day. And the result when she came back was that he couldn't tell whether she had Alzheimer's at all. Mm-hmm. And so when they did their testing, they found out that she had reverted back all the way from when she first thought she was losing her memories. So it had a significant impact on her. And that was just with sound, no medications, nothing else. So it was very, very powerful.
No, it is fascinating. And it's wonderful, because that's one of the few things in this world that it's so horrible for people that get that in the families, having to learn how to navigate and watch that happening. So it's tremendous to, it's great to realize that we can do some positive impact for these people. So the 40 hertz, that falls more into the gamma category. And I have some things that I've been cooking on for a while. It's not necessarily ready to go, where it involves gamma with other types of soundscape recordings, that hearing something off in the distance, that things that evoke memory, even if it's non-specific, just three-dimensional sound environments, the sound of a train going by us, and goes doo doo, people walking in a marketplace, a church bell going, all while the gamma is happening and the whispers of people talking, but you can't quite make out what they're saying. So the brain wants to lean in, and it becomes curious instead of, with Alzheimer's, it's as though the mind or the brain gives up.
Mm.
And so then this pull to go inward, except they go so inward that they can't connect outside anymore.
Right.
And so these ideas, hopefully, I mean, I'd have to test it out, but would want to pull them back out and elicit memory, but also want to get them curious and want to communicate more about what it is it could be recollection, but or it could just be a nostalgic feeling. But it's something that eventually I'll get to putting that together, because nothing would be more rewarding than to help people regain a sense of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a more rewarding thing.
I know, that was awesome. Yeah. So Leigh, now, as far as being a hypnotherapist or a meditation facilitator, why should we actually use these entrainment frequencies in our sessions?
Okay. Well, when you work with your clients, well, first let's just realize, especially that over the last couple of years, there's been a move to Zoom, Skype, or these online ways of meeting with our clients. And so it's totally doable and it totally works, but there's something that we used to take for granted. When you see your client in person, you can read all the the micro expressions on their face. You can see the perhaps if their heart rate is increasing or decreasing, or these clues that help us to understand where the client is, right?
Right.
It's a little harder through the camera. However, so the idea is, what do we want to do? We want to affect the best hypnotic trance that we can get for the situation or the type of work that we're doing. And it might be an imagery process, or it might be a type of suggestive therapy that requires a cataleptic depth. It depends, And so if we have a tool that can help us to ensure that we're bringing them into that space, then that's helpful, especially if now we're using this kind of interface to work with people. And so if we can add an extra tool, that's great. So these recordings are designed to help facilitate that gentle movement down into whatever type of open, suggestible space, where there's also a tone of healing and support. It's that I often describe it as it's like a cloud of sound, or a cushion that you're just kind of floating on throughout the experience. So you feel kind of cradled in the sound. It's like a support. So it helps you to open up, expand, be a little bit more present to your inner experience. You feel safe to be in touch with the emotions, even if they're not the most pleasant. It just somehow it helps buffer that and allows these experiences to unfold. And then the suggestive process for the hypnotherapist becomes a little bit more, targeted and on point, and you're getting the results that you want. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the idea there. And you can also then send them a recording with your voice over the music. It just helps make the whole thing more immersive, brings them in.
I have to say, I use them with my clients, and every one of them goes down. And I had a extreme introverted man, and he went down. So, and they always go kind of deep, because I use the tools.
Sure.
But I have if you don't mind, Leigh, I do have a sample that I'm going to show, and you guys feel free to. I'm going to play it for 5 minutes. So if you want to get relaxed after a long day of working on Friday night, let's do this. And it may affect your, excuse me. It may affect your pocketbook. You may find some coins in there. So stay tuned. So I'm going to play it for you right now. 1 second. I got to find it. Here you go. And I'm going to put this on. So
hello and welcome. This is Activating Prosperity, Becoming a Money Magnet. At this time, I'd like you to find yourself in a position where you can be fully relaxed, where you won't be disturbed, for about 20 minutes. I'll be guiding you into a natural state of hypnosis where your mind becomes receptive to positive changes and ideas, changing beliefs and attitudes that may be blocking you to your success. Now lay back, close your eyes, and let's begin by taking in a series of deep breaths, inhaling and exhaling, inhaling and exhaling completely, inhaling and exhaling, letting go. Inhaling, hold it, and exhale, letting go completely. Now become aware of the areas between your toes and the bottoms of your feet. You might imagine or sense a tingling feeling. And you can enhance that feeling by imagining a soothing orange glow at the bottoms of the feet. And as you become aware of that sensation, visualizing and imagining the orange glow, notice how it penetrates through each and every cell, getting in between all the little spaces. And as it moves its way through, it soothes, relaxes, and removes any tension. Noticing how it moves now over the ankles, so that both feet are engulfed in this soothing orange glow, this comforting, tingling sensation. And it moves up over the shins and calves, moving through all the little spaces, providing a sense of soothing comfort, relaxing, letting go. And watch as it moves over the knees, penetrating deeply into the tissues and muscles, allowing any tensions to simply evaporate. And now, this soothing orange glow continues through the thighs, up towards the hips. This soothing, tingling sensation, this orange glow, removes all tensions in that area of the body. And now it moves upwards over the hips, the buttocks, and the groin area, and further up into the stomach and lower back. This orange, soothing glow, soothing, relaxing, removing all tension, allowing you to let go completely into this wonderful state of relaxation. And this glow continues, spreading its tingling comfort throughout the chest, the upper back, and moving over the shoulders, feeling that tension letting go. And it moves through like massaging fingers through the neck, and then it spills down over the arms towards your hands and your fingers. And you can see this soothing orange glow has engulfed most of your body. It's doing its job of removing tensions and leaving behind only a comforting, soothing relaxation. And now it moves its way up into the face and the back of the head.
Oh, not hearing your audio.
Okay. So guys, you have to tell us, leave a comment, tell us how you enjoyed that hypnotic trance that Leigh was putting us into. It's very good. I mean, I've tried that one. It's really relaxing.
Yeah, I like the orange fluid with the progressive relaxation. It's one of my favorite because it gives you a visual. You can almost feel that sensation of a warm orange fluid. And I learned that one from Barry Konnikov. He used to do a series of hypnosis tapes 30 years ago. I think he's still around, but that was the first time I came across that. So I borrowed that element.
It was really good. I liked it. So it's often said that, and I had no idea how much frequency we personally are physically, because it said that humans are 86% God water. So if we're 75% water, that means we're superconductors. So all the frequency and all the music that you're hearing and all that you listen to, it means that you need to either do it skillfully, use the right frequency so you can heal, so you can uplift yourself. You can, like you said, the chakras, unblock them, heal them, clear them, all of that, and have the life you desire with frequency, simply frequency.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to in the universe itself is everything is vibrating at a certain frequency. And so, you can honestly say that although it appears solid, there really is nothing solid. It's just, how quickly or how slowly the molecules and whatnot are moving in cycles. And then, you have more and more complex patterns of frequency that become kind of a signature for each thing. And that's an interesting segue because, I call my branding of how I do stuff Cymatics, which it's a play on words because the way I spell it is not the traditional word Cymatics, spelled Cymatics. It's the study of how sound effects matter. Back in the 1950s, scientist Hans Jenny was the guy that kind of put this idea on the map, where he noticed that certain frequencies and or sets of frequencies would, when you played them through sand, light sand, it would move into certain patterns. And then he found, oh my goodness, I can create what looks exactly like a dragonfly or a certain type of flower or a starfish, or all these different life forms that were these patterns of frequency. And so that was a very interesting thing. So then that's where it was really kind of the idea of cymatics came together, of how
Oh,
what
wow.
are these frequency patterns and how do they manifest life and matter as we know it, how it assembles in these ways. And so this idea that sound is frequency, but everything is frequency, And then fast forward, today's leading researcher on cymatics is John Stuart Reed, and he has what's called a cymoscope, where he uses water instead of sand to and it's lit in a certain way that makes it really easy for the camera to see what's going on, and these elaborate patterns of mandalas that look exactly like all these different life forms again, or these sacred geometry shapes. It's just an interesting visual representation of what sound is doing. And
Yeah, I had no idea that it did that until years ago. I'm not familiar with them, but I'm familiar with Dr. Maraso Emoto, where he did the water study. And then certain things you said and certain music he played had a shape. And the music from the solfeggio frequency was so beautiful. But then they played rock music, and it was like acid, like it was brown and it looked dead, basically. And that's what you're doing to your body because you're mostly water. So let me ask you this, Leigh. If I'm a little sad and I need to be picked up, what frequency would you recommend?
Yeah, depending on if that depressive state had you feeling kind of fatigued and dragged down, or if there was more anxiety attached to it, it could go either way, right? Let's say if there's more of a just, your energy's depleted kind of experience, then I would suggest something that's in the beta spectrum, because that's where, the mind gets kind of busy. And unless there's a lot of negative self-talk,
I'm going to write beta. Okay.
It's the more active mind. It's the 2 cups of coffee mind. It's the okay, I got things to do. So you become a little bit more in your head, and so it's good if you have things to do, and you're just not feeling motivated, then beta is good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where we're just using our logic and reason, and we're just kind of analyzing things. And so also it should help the physical body just to get a little bit more wanting to move. But if somebody's already kind of in more of an anxious place with that kind of negative mindset, if you will, or feeling off in that way, then I would choose alpha.
Alpha.
Yeah, alpha, and then maybe even theta. But
Which
alpha,
one? Theta? Okay.
alpha kind of is a good one, because especially if we target around 8 cycles per second, that kind of alpha state puts us in that Schumann resonance place. It has this feeling like, okay, we're coming down into this relaxation space, but where we can still, think about what's going on, but from this calmer perspective. And it's about attunement with the world around you, and just feeling a little bit more focused, not a hard focus like that kind of effort focus, but just in tune with whatever it is that we're doing. It's the same frequency for athletes getting into the zone. it's that kind of place where you can still be active, as you don't have to be laid back in a recliner to get into that state. So that would be my recommendation. Now, if somebody is even more in this like anxious place, if you can get them there, because that's what's a little tough. Anxiety is a tough one. Especially if it's a real solid reason why that's happening. Some event in somebody's life that's happening. So that's why it's good to work with a therapist in a state like
Right.
that. You can, so maybe having a theta soundscape in the background, but work to really coach that person to release a lot of the stress and tension that's going on, and just to keep guiding them back to, let's just focus on the here and now, and moving through the body and allowing each area to relax, and allow the stress and tension to evaporate, and just throw those positive suggestions in there that give them hope that everything's going to be okay. That's kind of an approach that I would use.
So if someone was like, I talked about 40 hertz for pain, but do you have a recommendation?
Nothing any more particular than that. Things become very specific. I have a list of frequencies that I'll consult if we're getting into those very specific things. Somebody might have a headache. Somebody might have a knee that's chronically sore, or it's just, you address everything differently. And there's a whole discipline there of that medical model of using sound and music. That music therapy is one model, and then you have the application of sound and frequency to affect the physical body in specific ways, to lower cortisol, or to create endorphin flow, beta endorphins, or dopamine, and so when you know what your specific reason for wanting to affect those changes are, then you kind of figure out what your frequency is. But even aside from getting that specific, just getting the person into a more pliable state, out of that beta thinking mind into alpha or theta, it automatically, just on its own merit, because you're lowering all of that stress, that tension, the cortisol levels are going to go down. It's a lot of times about, well, what's the focus? Now I'm in this more relaxed, expanded, open state. What's my intention? Intention is extremely important. So I'd say that's really the focus that the therapist and or the client should really be in tune with. Well, what's the state you want to achieve? What it is that you want to accomplish in your life today, tomorrow, next week, whatever. Or how do we address what's going on now? Shift, so adapting suggestions to match that.
So we got a comment from the audience, and North Black said it felt your hypnosis frequency tape felt very comforting.
I'm very glad.
Yeah, I found it too, because I did the whole thing. I was like, but yeah, it was very good.
Messing around with my phone just so I didn't go into trance myself.
Yeah. So I had so can people, like anybody listening, can they go to your website and buy downloads?
Of course, yeah. And I usually have some specials going on. I have some right now. So it's hypnosismeditationmusic.com. And when they go there, there's the shop page, and you'll see what things are on sale and what things are normal price. And there's a description and a sample for everything that they can listen to. I also have what I call the VIP membership, which allows somebody to download everything, the whole catalog. And it's on special right now.
Is that it?
That is it.
Hypnosismeditationmusic.com?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And so Right now it's on special that you can get the whole catalog and all future material, as well as a licensing package that's half price for those people that want to produce recordings. It's like what you've done, where you get the ability to put recordings together with your voice, and you can sell them, you can give them to clients, you can do seminars with the music in the background, stuff like that, or YouTube videos. So yeah, just I invite people just to explore the website. I have an area where it talks about how I approach putting these things together, and so it goes a little bit into the science of entrainment, about ohm-like tones, why that effective, binaural beats and why that works. Heterodyne is one term for it. We call them isochronic beats. And there's just resonance itself. It's a little bit of an education so people kind of understand how we put these things together and why they work. So there's a few things to look at there.
That's really awesome. So hopefully, and then what was I gonna ask? I always like a story.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any fascinating stories with the entrainment soundscapes?
Sure. I guess there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is just kind of how I got into the way I do my approach to what I call cymatics. It was in 1997 where I just had this idea that, because I was listening to some music and there was a stretched out bass tone that was going through the speaker, and I could feel it in my body. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's kind of cool. And so I was like, what if I build a bed or a table that you can lay on, and you could push the frequencies through it, and you feel it throughout your whole body? Wouldn't that be an even more consuming or immersive way to experience the soundscapes, And so I built this thing thinking that I had come up with some new thing. And I had different people try it, and they're like, wow, that thing's really great. And they're going deep. And in fact, I brought it to a workshop with a colleague of mine back 25 years ago. His name is Barry Tuckman. And he did a workshop on sound healing. And at the end, we had people come up, and each person got to experience, 7 or 8 minutes on the sound table. And there were a few different people that felt like they were having an out-of-body experience.
Wow. Yeah.
I forgot where I was. They just kind of wrapped up in the experience, So that was interesting. And then I come to find out I did not invent this thing. There's other people that have come up with different approaches, but the main person that put it on the map in terms of availability out there for therapists and people was a man named Don Estes.
Oh.
And he has been producing recordings and equipment for people to do sound healing work for many years. And what's funny about that is I'm meeting this Don in Santa Monica on Monday, because he opened a new center out there that people can come and experience the vibroacoustic feeling of being on that kind of table. And he's got a nice visual thing of the lights are happening, and it's really cool. And so it's totally in line with my approach, how I do it. And so it was really cool to connect with him, And so I'm going to be, doing some future work with Don, which is great. Another thing that comes to mind, several years ago, I had a woman that came to me, and she said her son, who had ADHD, he was himself was just acting out. He was a frustrated kid. He was getting into trouble in class. The teacher was constantly having to put him in timeout and that kind of thing, And she didn't know what to do, aside from, the child had a therapist, and they wanted to put him on Ritalin and, all that kind of thing. And anyway, she bought one of my at the time CDs. We don't even do CDs anymore, but it was a CD. And she started playing it in the car on the way taking her son to school. And he would quiet down because he was usually rambunctious and just, going on in the car. He would get quiet and just look out the window and, like that. And she thought, that's interesting. I guess he likes the music. Okay. And then he would go into class. After a week or so of her doing that, the kid's teacher told his mom, I don't know what you're doing or what happened, but your son is behaving so much better in class. And she just felt like it was a big turnaround. And that was the only thing she could attribute it to was, must have been stepping him down into more of an alpha state, calming his brainwave cycles down enough. And he was able to focus, because I think that's what it is. Why he was getting in trouble, he couldn't focus in class, so he's acting out and getting distracted by everything. And so, that was pretty cool to hear. And so, I've had a few anecdotes like that after that, but that was kind of the main one, kind of the big aha that's pretty effective. It looks like maybe your camera froze up.
Yeah.
There you are. Well, I hear you anyway.
I'm back. But I
see
heard
you.
it. I heard it. And that was awesome. That's something to think about.
Yeah. No, if it could do it for that, I mean, it's just, people should just give it a try and see what happens. I think there's a natural and intuitive intelligence that we all have. And if we start getting into this more calm, expanded state, we get insight very naturally into what things are going on in our life, that when we're buzzing up here, oftentimes we're just not in tune with that. We push it away, or we're like, I'll get to it later, or we're just only slightly aware that we're bothered by something. So you get into those states, and not only do you get the insight, but it's just, you just have this intuitive way of just breathing through it and maybe understanding it from a different perspective. And just, it's about attunement or harmonizing with situations. And it's just intuitive. All people need to listen. Sorry, your connection's a little wonky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hear you. I'll just wait it out until I can hear you more clearly.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, the camera's still kind of doing its jitter, but I can hear you.
What's going on? I guess I don't know. It's just that time of day when everybody's getting off work. Is high speed internet, but it looks like the bars So what frequency did, if you can explain?
What frequency for that child with the 80?
The child, yeah.
His mom was playing the album Mystic Ascension, which is primarily an alpha state focus set of recordings, and that one has 7 different tracks, so it's not just one 30-minute track. So it has a playtime of 44 minutes, and so each track is about an average of 6 minutes long, and so it's engaging because each one's different. So kids, I think it helps when there's different sounds and sparkly things that they can pay attention to. It helps their imagination stay engaged, as well as it being calm. So you're getting the mind engaged that way, and then the body's doing the calming as well. So it's an alpha, but it had the variety as it moved along that I think kind of probably helped. And so where it didn't become, after a while, like, oh, I've already heard that, and then, so I think it kept him engaged and then helped him to calm, and his mind was able to just be in that imagination space instead of distracted by everything.
Leigh, would you
Still having trouble. I wasn't able to make out what you were asking. Still didn't quite get it. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's still too much. Are you able to turn the camera off so that all it's working on is the microphone?
Okay.
Well, it looks like she's trying to figure that out. I suppose I can explain a little bit more about some of the recordings. Some are really great for sleep enhancement for people that are having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. Deep Delta, which is one of the recordings on my website, is really good for that. It kind of steps the person gradually down into this very soft and lullaby type of space where they're guided into a deeper delta type brainwave rhythm, and so it encourages a deeper sleep. But that recording can be used for other things when you just want a nice, calm, soothing background. We have some others that might be good for imagery in terms of just letting your imagination kind of go and have fun, and that would be Mysteries of the Frontier. There's 2 tracks on there, Western Mystery and Eastern Mystery. So the Western sounds like the Old West. And there's steam trains that are moving around, kind of a desperado sound in the beginning. So it's kind of cool. And then Eastern Mystery sounds like you're embarking on a hike through Tibet. And so that's kind of cool. You're back. Hopefully we'll be able to hear you. I was just talking about some of the
Back. I
CDs.
don't know if you can hear me.
I hear you. So that's good.
Okay. Thank you. So you basically gave your last thoughts. Anything else you would like to mention?
I just encourage people to, if they'd like to learn more, to go to the website. I have a 25 years worth of material on there. And so there's a good variety. Again, there's an opportunity to get the whole catalog and future material. So just visit hypnosismeditationmusic.com. If people have questions and they want to contact me, probably my easiest email is Leigh, Leigh, Leigh at hypnosis.edu. And they can ask me any question and I'll get back to them as quickly as I'm able. And yeah, can't think of much else to add to that. But I'm just glad that I was able to show up here and represent what it is I do.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy having you and all of your experience and the story. And I did put it up on the screen. So if you want to go email Leigh, that's his email right there on the screen. And thank you guys so much for joining us and for liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel. And we will see you next week. We have next week our crystal healing session. Talk about crystal healing. So we'll see you then next Monday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Peace, you